All right, we're live. Or recording anyway. So I'm here with Mr. Marino from Marshall Simons Middle School, well known for his video exploits and creativity that he's always posting on Twitter. So thanks for taking a few minutes with me today.
Oh, of course.
We're all entering this new normal, which is really a unique experience. But the cool thing is we're going through it together. So it's great to be able to connect with different people and hear how they're dealing with this.
Yeah, the the interesting thing to me is I've never video chatted as much in the past couple of years than as I have in the past couple of days. And with people who I ordinarily wouldn't video chat with because you see them from day to day in person.
Yeah, right. And we miss
Yeah.
their faces, so it's good. Um, so I guess I wanted to ask you what week one looked like for you. Any like changes to your routine? Like how did it evolve for you as we get comfortable with this?
Well, to me, week one wasn't really much any different than a typical April or February vacation. After a week, when you start moving into day 10, 11, 12, you kind of start feeling like, okay, is there more to this than just, you can only lay stagnant for so long, and then you start all these questions in your minds, all these concerns you've never had before regarding school start entering your mind, and then it forces you to act on it. Reach out, email the kids, and begin to wonder how they're doing, and kind of put yourself second to all of these things.
Yeah, it's for sure. Um, it didn't necessarily feel like a Monday morning because all these days have kind of been the same, you know. I don't know how it felt for you this morning.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of Mondays because it's a fresh start of the week. It's like New Year's Day, and I try to put my mindset into that. But when Monday rolls around, you don't, for me, let's say Sunday, let's say Thursday, let's say Tuesday. It's just that 7 days a week is the same, and so it doesn't have that impression as a typical Monday does. Yeah.
So, having said that, is there anything as we look forward and realize this may last longer than just the 2 weeks, anything that you're doing or kind of considering to try to make it less monotonous?
It might contradict the objective of not making it monotonous, and that is having a rigid schedule. I think a lot of us of the past week and a half have kind of been kind of letting the wind carry us to the left or to the right, and wondering what's tomorrow going to hold, next week going to hold, and some of us may have even assumed everything will return back to normal sooner than it probably is. And so for me, having that social media presence and having that Google Classroom presence, so that the kids know that if a couple hours pass and they check Google Classroom or one of my social medias, they'll know that something new is there. And so that dependency on something other than the four walls everyone's looking at becomes becomes less secluded, and you begin to feel like you're not inside of your house for 24 hours straight.
Yeah, it's so funny because the balance I've been fighting myself, having been an early adopter of something like Twitter going back to 2009 and trying to like add some balance and like stay connected with the people like in my day to day at work. But now stuck in the house, I'm kind of glad I know how to use the tools that I have at my fingertips to connect with people and find out what's going on and get out of that isolation.
And it also shows how far this technology's come along, because just a couple of days ago, um, uh, the Marshall Simons Middle School admin kind of held this optional office hours where if you wanted to virtually hang out and just kind of ask questions and just kind of like commiserate a little bit and just kind of be in the same room. Among those teachers were some veterans who had never video chatted before, and it was their first time right there at that meeting. And for them to have figured that out and to kind of just do that live on the cuff, it's kind of interesting, and
That's
that's
awesome.
we have chuckles at each other's expenses, because the kids are screaming in the background or dogs barking too. But like you said before, it's something that we're all going through together, because as tech savvy as I try to be, uh, I'm just not used to this frequency of, what's going on behind me. Is the lighting right? Is the camera high enough? You begin taking these new objectives, then, stuffing the camera right in your face, not knowing, am I talking too loud?
Right.
Oh, I can mute the microphone. Well, why would I do that? And all those new norms, it's a learning curve, and you appreciate it more. And who knows? Maybe after this whole thing and the smoke clears, maybe more people will be implementing new techniques that we've learned during this time. I know I will.
Yeah, no, I think that's one of the things we're looking for is, what are things we can learn a little bit more about with all this time we have on our hands.
Yeah.
Definitely. Another thing I was going to ask you, so you kind of alluded to it a little bit, was the hangout with your staff mates at Marshall Simons. Any other things that you've done to kind of stay connected with colleagues, friends, students over the last week that you think might be useful for somebody else to hear?
Yeah, for those people who are beginning to use Google Classroom, who have a district that enables it, but you just never have done it before, starting slow is not a bad thing. Starting easy and keeping it under your control where you're comfortable. Wherever you're comfortable is where it gives you confidence. I know there's been so many changes to Google Classroom with all these options that have been updated since it started, that if I was to dive into Google Classroom today for the first time, I might be overwhelmed with all the options that are there. And so you have to just kind of, one, meet up with someone who knows this medium that you're going to use, and two, make sure that they're a good teacher, because you really want to start slow. And when you just introducing this, it's very jarring, and it can be intimidating. And so my recommendation or advice would be is whatever medium you choose to use with your classroom, just start slow and basic. As we entered this untimely break in our routine, I found that after a couple of days, just posting on Google Classroom a yes or no question, multiple choice, just yes or no, one question. All I said was, "Are you here?" And it said, "Yes, I am." And it said, "No, I'm not." And it was kind of interesting. I only got about 30% or 40% of my students to respond, but a lot of that 30%, most of them answered in the first 40 minutes, and it was really exciting. But again, I didn't post any assignments. I didn't post any kind of prompts. It was just check one of the boxes. And so my recommendation would be start simple.
Yeah, I agree. Find a tool that you're comfortable with and start simple. And as you get more comfortable, try something else. But it's not a race, it's a marathon. And the most important thing is to provide some avenue for your kids to connect with you so you can stay in
Mhm.
touch and eventually get to more meaningful things online. But right now, I think personally, I'm really concerned just about staying in touch with our students and making sure everybody's okay.
Yeah, making that effort. I can't imagine what it would be like, because when I was a student, and it wasn't very long ago, it wasn't common emailing your high school teachers or emailing your middle school teachers. I mean, I didn't get email until I was a freshman in college, when you had to get invited to Google by someone who already had a Gmail account. And so to take advantage of what they have in front of them is becoming, quickly very necessary. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's an amazing point too, because I know we teach with some great teachers that have been teaching for 20 plus years, and the changes they've seen, like you said, you wouldn't even have an email at home from a student, and now they're videotaping literally, and I can look into your home and share that type of experience. But it can be intimidating. So
Oh yeah.
um, going back to your point about just taking it slow and doing what you're comfortable with and just
Hmm.
being available is really the key at this point.
And I think that's the way education is with different teachers. Different teachers of different abilities are going to use their different strengths. Some people are really good artists, so those teachers are going to be drawing with dry erase markers in their lessons and engage kids that way. Others haven't used a dry erase marker in 10 years. And it's but because of that variety, it's a good thing for the kids. Otherwise,
That's great.
the kids would be tired of digital displays. The kids would be tired of dry erase markers. And so it's the same way using this. Everyone has their different way of the comfort level, and everyone has a different way of moving forward. And so it'll again offer the students an opportunity of variety. Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of learning, and we have a little time on our hands, more than we planned. Anything new that you're going to undertake yourself for personal learning over the next few weeks?
So the personal learning, my kitchen is like a revolving door of electronics right now. I got microphones and tripods, and I'm reaching out to some students I had on the robotics team who are really up to date on the latest apps to use as mediums and sources. Um, and so everything I've been learning has been procedural on the delivery method of what I know. Not to say that what I know is enough, because you always,
Right.
you always learn, which is why you follow other teachers on Twitter. But right now, I feel like it's just kind of, it just happened that all of this procedural stuff of, well, if I put my computer up higher, or if I use this microphone, or actually, even just now as we're talking, I'm thinking to myself, after I get off this phone off this conference with you, I want to learn how to record a conversation so that I can have a dialogue with another teacher or a student, and then publish that as content.
Right.
So for me, right now, that for me, it's the delivery system of everything I know. Because right now, I've never delivered content this way.
Right.
It's always
Right.
any content I've delivered this way is out of a secondary attempt to get it out to the kids. We learn
Right.
this in class. Now check this out. Check out this edit. But if this has been the primary way of doing it, for me, the most essential way is getting a handle on how to get it to the kids in a way they can understand it. They have access to it. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So workflow type things. That's great. The
Hmm.
last thing I've been asking people about is just, is there something that you have found to be grateful for over the last week? Because I know we're out of school for this terrible thing that's going on, and things might get a little bit worse. And I think it's really important that people look for things positive during the day to day, so we're not just dwelling on the negative that could be going on. So I've been asking people to share a source of gratitude that they might have had, something that was possible or became possible because of the fact that we're in this situation that wouldn't have been possible.
Yeah, I guess it's pretty clear to me that I'm very grateful for the amount of trust that goes in two directions. The amount of trust that my students have in me, to the point where they believe that when I post something, it'll be there, and tomorrow there'll be something else. And that trust kind of gives me that leadership role. And I value my role as a leader more and more every day. But this really is kind of like, it puts the pressure on me. And I'm very thankful for that. And then the other part of that is how much trust I have in the leaders, that lead us teachers, admin and yourself, to make the effort to reach out and do things like what you're doing now, and do things like a Google Hangout of just a conference meeting with no topic. Let's just all be in the same area. And so I'm very thankful that those things are in place, because as an adult, it gives me bearing. And I want to offer that same bearing so that these kids can find some traction in the next couple period of time. Yeah.
No, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's going to be it for this one, and look forward to playing around with this and checking in on some more people over the next few weeks. So thanks for taking the time to do this.
Well, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And please don't forget to follow at Mr. Marino Science.
That's great. I should have asked where to find you on social media. That's a must
At Mr.
follow.
Marino
A must
Science.
follow. Must follow.
Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
Thanks, Jordan.
All right, you take care now.